What's up, studs? Kunal here, Bulls on Wall Street. Guys, let's take a look at the United States stock market and what the heck is happening. We have a lot of news from the weekend and the past week to digest, and then let's spend some time figuring out what the heck we're going to trade. At first glance, if you look at the market, you would say the market's been pretty weak. We're down 4 days in a row, give or take. And it would look like there's nothing going on. And that is true if you are looking at primarily big cap tech stocks. But if you start digging through the other indices, you will see some green shoots around that are pretty interesting. So if you're trading big cap tech, it's dead. What you got to do is look at some of the other indices and you'll start to see all sorts of fun stuff happen. You know, if you do a, let's say, 90-day sort, on the indices, you'll start to see, right, all sorts of stuff that's been trending that's not big cap tech. Now, this silver is up too much, but if you look here, beautiful run in the Tan Nation. That's your solar ETF. I mean, if you write that was a stock, you would say that's hot, right? It looks very similar to SanDisk, right? Like, you know, that same pattern, right? Very similar to SanDisk just on Friday. That's a hottie with a body, baby. So let's get some solars to the watch list, right? If you look here, you got a flag breakout happening in steel. So you can go in, right, dig up some of your old steel stocks and roll in with it. You know, you have IBB. So IBB tested and now it's tested. And so it's coming down here. The third test should cause the breakout. It'll probably take about a couple more weeks. And then, right, you're off to the races. So there's stuff there. So the one interesting thing with the U.S. markets is that you have things that you can swing trade, which is like hot sectors and some of these names. When you're day trading, you know, you need more liquidity. So some of these sectors that look really, really good, they're just not day tradable, right? Like if you look and you're seeing like, man, I want to like jam on some, you know, steel stocks. Well, there's only like a handful of them that really have like any liquidity. So if you're looking and you say like, okay, let me see what kind of, you know, stocks have some level of steel in them. And you see there's quite a few United States steel companies, but when you do a volume sort, there is only CLF, GGB, SID, right, that do even over 2 million shares. And the rest of these are, you know, they're nothing, right? They're little nothing burgers. So when you do a top-down analysis and you really look at these hot sectors, they're great if you are an investor or a swing trader. You just like to post charts for, you know, jerk-off points on Twitter. But if you're a day trader, you need a lot more liquidity. So I love to do this top-down analysis to get like an idea of what the heck is happening in the markets. But I can't always day trade all this. Some of it I have to swing trade because it just doesn't have the liquidity to like flip. Say you want to flip like 10,000 shares or something. And stock does like 1 million shares a day. Not very easy to do, right? That's a full-time job right there. So just something to kind of be mindful of as you go. XME, boy, that looks pretty good, right? You know, you got 1 test, 2 tests. You're coming in for the 3rd test. You know, this has got some good trenders on it that you can kind of dig through here, right? Alcoa and HL, you have all these kind of names. The key is like you want to be finding stuff that is not crazy extended and that hasn't broken out all the way. I think this FCX is something, if you look at like, say, a weekly chart, right? This FCX is at something that's like, I would say a big spot. So like something like that could work, right? Now this is a weekly chart, so it just had an inside week. So, you know, maybe another one of these, and I think probably that's like ready to shred. You can see here, just sitting on the 9 EMA. You have a whole host of these, right, that you can go through. So this is where you spend your time doing some homework on the weekends, do a deep dive into some of this stuff, right? I think that becomes a big help. Look at like, you know, you would think like when you think of SMH, this is your semiconductors, right? But everybody's always just thinking NVIDIA. But this thing is breaking out. That's a 3-test breakout. There's something going on here, right? It's just not necessarily NVIDIA. There are more stocks in the world than NVIDIA, right? Taiwan, semiconductors looks good. And I don't know at this Venezuela stuff if this is like going to be a hot play for tomorrow. But, right, that is That's a muchos buenos, right? If you just are like, man, that's looking at charts, right? That thing is cooking and booking. So you have like these handful of names out there, right? Even like something like an AMD has got like a nice range break setting up here if you can clear out the 50-day moving average. So you've got a whole host of names inside the SMH beyond like what's happening with the NVIDs, right? So just something to kind of keep mind of as you go through. Gold, a dud, healthcare. Look, autonomous driving and electric vehicles. You know, we look at this and we only think Tesla. But if you look at the chart of the index, right, you see all this good stuff here, right? There's more names in this index than just Tesla. And so, you know, do a deep dive into some of these names and you'll start to see, right, all sorts of goodies. I think some of this, Baidu's a good cause of this, right? Like Baidu had a big run. This needs obviously a pullback, fantastic looker, but right, it's a little bit too far gone for us. And there's a whole host of these other names in here. So just something to kind of keep mind of as you go through. Now let's dig into some of the watch lists of like my faves. RDW. Guys, you know, we've been talking about space nonstop. I'm into the space. You got a level break here. It looks fantastic. Keep that on the watch list. RKLB, you know, we were talking about this in our chat room. You know, it dumped off at literally the open on Friday. I was telling the guys in the chat room that's probably the flush out. When you get a hot chart, oftentimes they'll flush it out in the morning, right? Especially if the market's bullish. They'll flush it out in the morning and then everybody's like, oh, fuck, let's short this thing. It's a turd. It's overvalued. And then, you know, as soon as it goes red to green, then, you know, you're in a bullish kind of fate. This looks fantastic. RDW. I think ASTS looks really, really good here. It's a little bit loose right now. It's a little loosey-goosey, right? But, hey, everybody needs a little love, right? Just because you're a little loosey-goosey doesn't mean you don't deserve a knight in shining armor if you can find one. ASTS looks fantastic. ONDS, this one needs a pull, but I'm looking at any kind of back test on this 10. We've been talking about this name forever. We were doing the $10 calls a handful of days ago. The 1050 calls were really cheap too. Fantastic looker. Like the options were actually pretty cheap on them because they've been stuck in consolidation for a while. But I like the look of this for a breakout, but give us a little pull, build out the handle a little bit. I think we're going to be good to go. Hey, Lunar is another space name. You got a big breakout over here, and then you're starting to take out some ranges. I like the overall look of this. WDC. All of these memory companies, MU, SanDisk, WDC, they all look fantastic. I would say WDC is probably like the just easiest one to trade. It's got the least spread, and it's probably the least extended. It's extended, you know, but it's consolidated for the last handful of months. Like, I think it's got probably a shot. Hey, I want to put a couple of these solars on the watch list. I've got Shoals. I got FSLR. You know, I think both of these are probably worth a gander. You know, I think anything along that end, I think you're going to be in for, you know, you're going to be probably pretty happy with things. Guys, one thing I will say is the lame sevens, I'd probably stay away from them. They are spiking and fading like every day. You know, if you look at the price action on like something like Google spike and then just totally fade off, right? And, you know, you get something even like Palantir that just like got dusted right off the gate. Like this is when you get this like nice, dude, that's a distribution action, right? So you want to stay away from these and just stick with, you know, probably these like more mid-cappy names. I would say that RCAT and some of these kind of names look pretty good here. We've got all sorts of these kind of like a little bit more specky type of names. I think that's where we want to be looking. So Shoals, RCAT, like anything, you know, ONDS, UMAC, like any of this kind of stuff. If you see here, like UUUs, with all the metals going, why not UUU? You were at 30 bucks, got down to 11 bucks. You dropped 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, whatever percent. And now like you've had a couple months to just go sideways. Boom. That's hot, right? let's add some of these to the watch list. Like you got this one, maybe like a UAMI or CRML. Like they're all, this is the type of stuff you want to see for the new year, right? You want to see a little perk alert from some of these type of names. So guys, I love you guys. Let me know if you need anything. Smash the like button. Leave me a comment. Let me know if you have any tickers you want me to go through the next time. I love you guys. Peace.